Hi friends, I am coming to you from my pretty dark lit office right now. It's not even 5 p.m. but life of a programmer working from home right now during COVID and also living in Canada where the sun sets at like 4 p.m. Okay, let's get to why you are here though, which is how to stay motivated while learning how to code. I remember when I was learning how to code, I felt this way so frequent throughout my journey and kind of still do at times, but to a lesser extent since I've discovered different ways to stay motivated. When I first started learning how to code, I constantly felt as though I was losing motivation and that maybe because I was losing motivation, it wasn't for me. And that completely was inaccurate. In reality, I was doing a lot of things wrong while starting my coding journey, which in turn made me feel drained and lose a lot of motivation. So in this video, I'm going to be sharing with you why I was losing motivation, why you probably are losing motivation, and how to ensure that you don't lose that. Before I go any further though, make sure to like and subscribe down below for more coding and tech videos. Also, I love hearing your feedback of other videos you want to see, so leave those in the comments. Okay, let's get back to it though. So I'm going to share a little bit about my story and how I identified why I was losing motivation. And in turn, I hope it will kind of bring some insight or spotlight to why you probably are losing motivation as well. When I first started learning how to code, I was doing it on my own. So I always, and my personality, I guess you could say, is very determined and, I want to accomplish the most I possibly can, which is most people when you're learning something new. So what I did when I first started learning how to code, rather than sitting there and learning the very fundamentals, the very basics, I kind of just jumped right in. I started taking tutorial after tutorial and really went down kind of that tutorial never-ending circle where it was constantly one after another. And from that, I would take chunks of the code that I was building in my tutorials and try and make something on my own. But I wasn't even really making anything on my own. I was just copying the tutorial by like bringing big chunks of code from one place to another. And hey, listen, I understand that's what a lot of programmers, including myself, do a lot throughout the day, is just get code from Stack Overflow and modify it. But now at least I know what I'm doing and why I'm taking that code and how I'm modifying it. Back then, I didn't know any of that stuff. So I would take this code, put it into what I was building on my own, which once again was pretty much just copying the tutorial I completed, and not really understanding as to how the parts were moving or working. So when I ever hit a roadblock or got caught up in a bug or stuck, I felt like, okay, well, I don't know how to solve this because I don't know how my code works. I don't know what pieces go together. I wasn't really thinking of it as a big picture. I was so focused on being able to create this like grandiose project that I didn't actually take a step back to start from the basics. And I think a lot of people do that because when you first enter into the tech industry and then narrow in on coding, it's still such a huge industry with so much to learn, and it can become very daunting and overwhelming for someone to sit down and be like, okay, where am I going to start? What am I going to learn when there is so much to learn? And especially if you are like myself, who you hope to get a job out of it, that was my main motivation when learning code, it's even more time sensitive. I know I need to really grasp these concepts quickly in order to get a job quickly, in order to make more money quickly, in order to continue, my life quickly, the whole kind of thing. It goes in a cycle. And in turn, I was rushing my coding experiences and my coding journey for learning. So oftentimes what would happen is when I got stuck, when I was taking all this code and making my own projects with it, but not really understanding what was going on, the minute I got stuck or the minute I had a bug, I didn't know how to debug. I didn't know what to look for because I didn't even really understand the basics, and that was so frustrating to me. So then in turn, I would almost always just put the project aside and never finish it. I would just start another project, and it really became a cycle that I often lost a ton of motivation to learn how to code through. And it really took me to almost a breaking point that I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't think this is for me. Maybe I'm not this just isn't the right path for me. Maybe I'm not meant for this. And when I sat down with a senior developer who I actually reached out to just online, I didn't even know, but she lived in the city I live in, and asked, hey, can you tutor me kind of thing. So we sat down and I couldn't even explain any of the basics to her. She's like, okay, we need to take a step back and go back to the fundamentals. You clearly did not spend any time learning what a for loop is, what if else is, like all these, I'm talking the basics. I didn't spend time learning. And then because I didn't actually spend the time putting in the work, learning the basics to lay down that foundation, when I was just kind of like trying to speed to the top or get a job as quickly as possible, it was impossible because I didn't know what I was doing. I was just kind of faking my way through it in not a good way. And it constantly was this depressing or very lack of motivation feeling because, well, what's the point if I have no idea what I'm doing? It can be very frustrating at times when you are stuck on a problem and there's no one to help you, no one around, and you've been working on it for how many ever hours and you can't solve it. Little kind of tip, if that is your scenario though, make sure to ask the question on Stack Overflow. I think that's also a really good experience to ask a question and put it into words through Stack Overflow for your first time. So don't be afraid to do it, just go do it. Okay, as I was saying though, so now that you kind of know a little bit about how I went through losing motivation, and I'm sure many of you have gone through similar paths with losing motivation in coding, how do you come out of that? How do you come out of that stump? Well, for me, it was taking a step back and learning to be patient with myself, which sounds easier, is easier said than done, but take a step back and be like, hey, okay, I really want to learn how to code because I want a job, because I want to build something, whatever the reason is. And if you are someone who's on a strict timeline, then you have to be practical about what you are going to be able to accomplish and learn within that timeline. If you can be more flexible on your timeline, I think that's a little bit more ideal, as you need to underestimate what you can accomplish in a day. And what I mean by that is, rather than saying, okay, I'm going to spend 3 or 4 hours after work coding and I'm going to achieve this big project, take a step back and say, I'm going to spend an hour after work coding and I'm going to try and understand how for loops work. And really just try and scale back what you are learning, because these are really new concepts to you if you're someone who isn't used to coding or programming languages, and you really need to take a step back and spend time on the fundamentals. I know it's easy to get caught up in, well, I should be here, or I should need to learn this, this, and this still. It's okay. If you focus on the fundamentals and that's where you put your time and attention, the rest will come way quicker and way easier, I guess you could say, because once you understand the foundations, you're gonna grow like this nice kind of plant or pyramid, I don't know. But you're gonna grow way quicker and it's going to be much more stable. And in turn, you're going to see that you're going to lose motivation way less because you actually understand what you are doing and understand that, hey, if I know this, I can build upon it, versus just getting stuck in this constant cycle of tutorials where you're building but not really having a clear end goal in sight as to what you hope to achieve or how to get there. My advice would be to take a step back, see what kind of expectations and pressure you are actually putting on yourself, and scale back on that. Take a step back, be patient and kind with yourself, scale back. If you are currently coding or hoping to code, say 2 or 3 hours a day after work or whatever your schedule is, cut it back in half and see how that feels, because a lot of times this motivation loss comes from putting too much expectations on ourselves. It's kind of like the example when, you know how people say if you have a to-do list that has 10 things on it, you end up getting nothing done? Same kind of concept. If you have so much pressure and expectations of achieving so much in such a little span of time with coding, you're going to get nothing done or feel like getting nothing done. I really hope this helps any of you who feel like you're losing motivation when learning how to code. You will get there. Be patient with yourself, and I promise you, I know from experience, it just takes time. Thanks for watching my video. Make sure to like and subscribe to my channel to see more tech and coding related videos. Once again, leave in the comments other videos you want to see and I will ensure to make them for you. I'll see you all soon. Bye everyone.